Greetings, true believers. It's time for Spoiler Country's Make Mine Marvel TV, live from the Smith Tower high over Seattle, with your hosts, John, Kenric, Sumner, and Casey. Welcome to Make Mine Marvel TV.
All right, guys, welcome back to Spoiler Country. Today on the show, it's Make My Marvel TV once again, as we have been doing. This is like our fifth week in a row, and it's pretty exciting because every week we're bringing you guys our reaction to Marvel TV. Hence the title of this show now, Make Mine Marvel TV. Episode 2, Falcon Winter Soldier, dropped on Friday. Everybody get a chance to watch?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I did. I just finished it this morning.
Nice. And let's start with the eponymous Mr. Sumner. What'd you think, man?
Loved it. Massive step change from episode 1, which I thought episode 1 was totally necessary.
Yep.
But this kicked in so much stuff that I truly enjoyed. Just in terms of the action of the piece, in terms of the narrative. There was a lot in this episode. I felt and you got to see Falcon and Winter Soldier together. I think the chemistry is very, very satisfying. But there's so much good stuff in it, and some of it I'm sure we'll pull out during the course of the conversation. But kind of the highlights for me were that you really got a sense of how much they're doubling down on the whole John Walker as Captain America thing, which they'd never revealed previously, that they're really going to go with him being Captain America rather than the US agent, for example. Thought that was fascinating. I thought it was great the way they go out of their way to portray like John Walker as not just a douchebag, but actually, they give him a real life and they give him, a wife, and they make him not a cliche, to me. Right. He's not just some hard-ass career soldier, while at the same time you get hints of the fact that he has had this amazing military career, but he's not superhuman, and he might end up going to, I think there are hints that he might end up going to places that original real Cap would never go. Like one of the first things he does during the mission is shoot someone. You know what I mean? I thought that was an interesting tell. But, it's like a 360-degree performance. He's not just a cartoon bad guy. It's not as simple as that. It's not like, okay, he's the guy we've all got to dislike. They set him up deliberately so that you see him as a human being, actually. And I thought that was very interesting. I thought he was great that... and that could happen. That could still happen. That could still happen that he gets taken out relatively early. Because I thought it was real interesting during the mission that you could see while he's in great shape and he's a soldier, he's not a super soldier. So, for example, when he gets knocked off the top of the transport, he's got to climb back up like a normal human being would. Whereas Cap would just pull himself up with one arm and jump on top. You know what I mean? He's not able to do that. Because he's not superhuman.
I thought I was going to kill him. I really did. I thought they were going to do all that build up because they can bring the story through. But if they killed him right then, it would have been shocking, but it would have made a lot of sense at the same time. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then Sam pick up the mantle.
Oh, I agree completely. And that could still be where we get to. But what I love, this is the great thing about Marvel, which we've touched upon many times in the course of talking about these shows already, is it's brilliant speculating where they will go. You never know quite where they are going to go, but it always, in retrospect, makes a great deal of sense. I really loved the reveal that the young lady was in fact Carly Morgenthau, was the feminized version, gender swapped version, if you will, of Flag Smasher. I thought that was brilliant when she at first appears to be, the fresh-faced hostage, and in fact she is the lethal super soldier running the show. I thought that was great. And by the way, something that was really resonant for me is that actor who is in a movie I've not seen actually, the Solo movie. I know that she's in that. But she's a very accomplished, young English actor, right? Mm-hmm. And what I love about her is she's portraying Carly Morgenthau as the kind of like urban English person that represents what England actually is to me. kind of mixed race person, young, has that urban English accent. Now, the way she speaks, if my daughter for Lucifer were to be here on camera with us, that is the way she talks. That's a very contemporary English accent, the way she speaks, right?
Yeah.
And I really loved that that's what they made her character. And I really loved the surprise factor of that's who she was. She wasn't a hostage. She's the protagonist.
That was great. That was
but I thought it was just really well done. And then there are many things. The other things I loved is that they actually put Lamar Hoskins, Battlestar, in it as well, right? And then when he revealed his operational code name, I loved the fact that Sam and Bucky are like, "What? Like seriously? That's your name?" You know what I mean? I thought that was great. And of course, perhaps the real high point. There were many high points in this episode for me. One of the real high points I thought was brilliantly cast, by the way, brilliantly cast, because Carl Lumbly's great actor with a lot of presence. He's always been very physically fit, and even as a man in his 60s, he's still very physically fit. You know what I mean?
He looks intimidating.
Yeah, and he's always been a big guy. I mean, I don't know if you ever watched this show when you were kids growing up, but he's one of the detectives in Cagney and Lacey.
Oh, he was?
And he's one of the male detectives in Cagney and Lacey. He was in it the whole way through, and he was fucking massively cut and ripped in that show. And he's the kind of guy who used to wear short business shirts with short sleeves that were cut off on his biceps. His biceps were fucking huge. He's always been in great shape, but he has that power and intensity. Yeah. And the minute it was him, I was like, that is spot on to me. That is, to me, is spot on casting. I just thought he was brilliant.
You know what's funny is
if you haven't read Captain America: Truth, Red, White, and Black, if you haven't read that book yet, that is a phenomenal book. It is a sad book that will. It does not end on a happy note, but it is such a good story. And
it's an excellent
Robert
book.
Morales and Kyle Baker did such a great job on that book back when it came out in 2004 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's one
Kyle
of my
Baker, by the way, is a genius, I think. Kyle Baker is an amazing talent, just unbelievable.
Dude, Kyle Baker's work on Plastic Man was phenomenal.
Oh, it's great. Have you ever read Why I Hate Saturn? That's a graphic novel he did fairly early on. Just great. So he was. I first really got to. I was first exposed to his work when DC in the 80s did a modern update of The Shadow, right, which was a real dark comedy. It was originally kicked off. By Howard Chaykin, and then it went to being Howard Chaykin. He illustrated the first arc, which is called Blood and Judgment, and then he did a follow-up 6 issues where the art was done by Bill Sienkiewicz. And then, I do know his name. I'll come to me in a sec. Andy something. Andy Helfer became the author and took it just down this crazy kind of kaleidoscopic sort of alt reality kind of route. And Carl Baker was the artist. And it's just a phenomenal book. I've got a feeling most of it's now being collected by Dynamite. But if you ever get the chance and you haven't read it, you should do it. It's unbelievable stuff. It's great.
Before we get too far down the rabbit hole, you mentioned something which I thought was really interesting, the gender swap. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people complain about gender swapping and doing things with characters. But this is an instant that totally made sense, because you wouldn't have the same surprise if you didn't do this type of swapping out to make that character. You know what I mean? Because now you have this Bambi doe-eyed look when he comes in, and then that little smile gives it all away when you're like, oh, you're about to get your ass shit. Your ass kicked.
Yeah. No, Kenric, I couldn't agree more. And to be frank, people who complain about gender swapping or race swapping just annoy the fuck out of me. I think it's nonsensical to complain about that stuff, because the reality is a lot of comic characters were created in a bygone era when everyone was male and everyone was white. You don't want to keep it that way moving forward, because it doesn't reflect the society in which we live, right? We live in a very multicultural society, particularly in the UK and particularly in the US. And I love the gender flipping. I love the race flipping as well. I think it's very important, and the reality is if these characters have been created now, they would be multicultural, they would be multi-gender, and I think it makes it interesting. And actually, I don't think there's a single example of Marvel ever doing it badly where you've gone, oh man, I wish they hadn't done that. Because I'm telling you, if you're familiar enough with the Mark Grunwald comic books, that that Flag Smasher comes from, which, although it's loved by a lot of fans, is one of my least favorite arcs on Captain America, but it's very long running. Yeah. You don't want to faithfully adapt Flag Smasher to a TV show because it would look fucking ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? And what they've done with it is far more successful than Flag Smasher is as a character within the book. That's for sure.
Yeah. Casey, we haven't heard from you yet. What did you think of the show? Is there something you took away?
Okay, so one thing that I really appreciated about the show is that, by the way, say hey to Charlie.
Casey's walking his dogs, everybody.
Hey, pal.
One thing I liked was it showed a little bit more of the motive and the humanity behind Flag Smasher. Yeah, they're the villains, but like you can kind of understand their goal in that, you know, we had 5 years where these assholes weren't in charge anymore. These people that are, you know, systemically keeping other people down. And then they come back and everybody's trying to bend over backwards to accommodate them. And not only that, but to put them back into power after new systems have already been put into place. So you get the motive. But I mean, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck and squawks like a duck, it's a duck. And if it acts like a terrorist, and it's a fucking terrorist. Other people down. Did y'all get any of that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean that's the biggest takeaway I got. Additionally, I liked the character building where Sam and Bucky had to kind of work out their differences.
The therapy scene where they had to get really close.
Love that scene.
Yes. I thought the action wasn't near as good in this episode. There was some cool moments on the train or truck rather, but I mean,
it's hard to beat that opening scene from the first.
You can't beat the swell suits.
I didn't really feel that the focus of this episode was action, you know, and I think that was kind of the strength of it. I think the focus of this episode was narrative and character, and you know, and I really liked the time we spent with like Sam and Bucky just chatting with each other. That all those scenes massively delivered for me.
Oh yeah,
you know, and I loved the therapy scene with Amy Aquino again. I thought that was fantastic.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, it was good. I really enjoyed. Well, you know what's interesting is seeing the nuances of the new Cap. How much of you see the locker room scene where they're at his old high school, and you're like, oh, he's a good guy. He's, you know, he going on and but then you see the nuances of how he's dealing with Bucky and Sam, and you're like, oh, this guy's a dick.
Yeah.
You know, you see that whole different side of him, and it's an interesting. I thought they pulled it off really well.
Well, I think it's a complex portrayal, right? Because he's both things at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, he's a family man. He's married. You know, he's got this whole. You see him on what it is he's concerned about in his own mind, but at the same point, you know, he's a kind of multi-decorated, long-term career soldier, and you've got to have a certain mindset to be that. Do you know what I mean? He's a contemporary soldier as well. So you bet your life that this guy's ledger is full of red, you know, and one of the things that we may see, we may not see, is the fact that to get those 3 Congressional Medals of Honor, he will have done a lot of heinous shit, you know what I mean? He didn't bat an eyelid using the gun, you know what I mean? Right. It just straight
exactly.
Yeah. It's interesting.
He's protecting. Sorry, he's protecting an America that for all intents and purposes does not exist in the real world. He has the veneer of patriotism and what America could be, but in doing that, in becoming that America, it's really overlooking, you know, a whole other group of people.
Yeah.
And that's what I picked up from it, because it's not real America that he's trying to save. That big massive stadium, it was glitz and glamour, but that's not real life. That's not real America.
No, but
sorry.
Captain America, Steve Rogers did the exact same thing in the USO tour in World War II. So like it's very on brand for Captain America to do that glamorous type shit. That's exactly the same shade he did in the first Avenger.
And there was character growth there too, which I guess I'm not giving him enough time, but he, eventually he learned it was all kind of bullshit.
Well, I think the difference between the character growth of Steve Rogers versus John Walker, they touch on it very quickly, but it's very important. Bucky asked about if he ever jumped on a grenade, and John Walker's like, yeah, 4 times. I had this trick with my helmet. Well, he was meaning actually jumping on a grenade like Steve Rogers did to stop a grenade to save people, not doing a trick with the helmet. Very different characters from the beginning. So
interesting.
They come from like he's fighting for America and doing the same stuff, but like Steve Rogers' origins is very, very different than John Walker as far as how he got there.
Yeah, and to build on what Johnny's saying, that scientist, I can't remember his name, from the first Avenger that initially gives Steve Rogers the serum, would never give it to John Walker based on
not at all.
The way he is. He's not that kind of person.
That's right. John Walker's like one of the other guys in that unit that he was in. That's the difference. Because the thing is, the thing about Steve Rogers, the way he's set up within the MCU, the way he's set up within the comics, is he's the ultimate human being of principle, right? So he happens to be a military person, but his principles outweigh everything, which is why, by the way, in Civil War, he doesn't side with the military industrial complex. He goes, no, fuck you, I'm not going to do it. Which is, his principle is everything to him, right? And that's the brilliance of that character. He's almost an impossible human being. Yeah. Whereas what's fascinating about it might end up getting to the point where I think there'll be a lot more reveals about the Walker character, but I don't think it's going to be as straightforward as actually, it's going to unfold him and he's going to kind of grow as a person. It could easily, what you'll end up seeing is the darker side of who you need to be a successful career soldier like that. And I really like the way they cast his wife, and his wife Sarah, I think, appears in more episodes than the one we just seen. So they give him a whole proper backstory, which is good. But he is very, very career military in the way that he interacts with he tries to be in the right way, interacts with Bucky and Sam. He tries to be as charming as possible, but that facade drops as soon as they say, "Look, man, we're not gonna play ball." Then he just goes for the whole just stay out of my way. Then it's immediate force. Well, okay, that's
there's a line drawn there immediately.
If you're looking at that in reality, though, like what chance does he have against Bucky in a real fight?
None.
He has no whatsoever, but Bucky will tear his ass.
Oh, quickly. Even if Bucky didn't have super serum, he would still kick the shit out of him just by 100 years of experience.
Right? 90 years of murdering people.
Yeah. No, I mean that's the thing. Like Bucky's incredibly lethal, so his whole existence is at this moment in time is just an exercise in self-control, not tearing people apart, right?
Yeah. It's a phenomenal. I don't know. I'm excited. I can't wait for episode 3 and 4. And this is only 6 episodes on this one, correct?
Yeah, 6 episodes. That's correct. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, so there's some other things I thought were great in the episode. I loved the way that there's been hints about this all along because of the museum and everything, but you realize that the tiniest details of Steve's life, right, prior to going into the ice are public knowledge. Everybody knows him. Like, he's incredibly famous. His life is famous because clearly in that 70 years where he was on ice, his whole life story has been told over and over again. And there've been numerous books written about him. Everybody's, because he's famous, he disappeared at the end of the war. Every detail of his life is laid bare. So everybody knows about the smallest, everything that happened in Captain America, the First Avenger, even if it appears to be stories about his personal life, everybody's aware of that. Like, everybody knows all about his friendship with Bucky. Everybody knows all about the insides of the Howling Commandos. Everybody knows about every detail about his training, right? Yeah. So it's like everybody knows the anecdote about him jumping on the grenade, because as it would be in real life, if that was like a famous person, like was Audie Murphy, the most famous soldier of World War II, everybody knows all the details of his life. Everybody knows all the details of Steve's life. Yeah, and similarly, it's everything that's around that, and it's like everybody knows about, like, the Star Spangled Man team is famous in the MCU to just regular people. So when they bring John Walker back, They're using the Star Spangled Man theme, and they openly talk about it. Well, Star Spangled Man with a plan, like that's a pop culture note within the MCU. Everybody knows it. I just thought all of that stuff was brilliantly done, because and it makes you realize how truly famous Steve is. So and for obvious reasons, because he was a national hero before he ever came out the ice. He was like a legendary figure, right?
Right. Yeah, we got a great question on the chat, and Johnny, you want to read that?
Sure. The question from user Ebrinson: how many of the people who survived the snap came to leadership roles simply because resulting of the power vacuum?
Oh, I'm sure there was a ton.
A vast amount will be the answer, a vast, and also the government will be the existing power structure, the infrastructure. There'll be way more corruption in it than there even was beforehand, because what would happen if half the people in the world disappeared? It would be capitalist opportunists would be the people who take over.
Yeah,
100% be with the people with the money, to make things happen. It wouldn't be a festival for due process and governance. It'd be a festival for people with no fucking morals and cash, who, by the way, are already doing a great job in the world, in the way the world it is. You know what I mean? But you take out 50% of people, then it's the people with the money who've got the juice.
Yeah. It's going to be. It would be super interesting. I love that they took this angle, that it's people that want the world back, but before the blip or before everybody came back. That 5-year period of half of everybody gone. Because I could see that being a legit thing, that people would be like, their world changed, and maybe their world changed for the better because so many people have gone through have rebuilt their life, and the fact that now they have more opportunities, more things to do, and now all of that is gone. And it's an interesting way to do it.
One thing, the human aspect of people saying that Thanos is right,
I was exactly what I was about to say, John. Absolutely right. And I think the other thing I think is interesting about the world that might have existed over that 5-year period, I think a great character to explore and to have not be blipped, right? Because if he wasn't blipped, I think this person is a skullduggerous bastard who probably has quite a power base now. Would be the Justin Hammer character from Iron Man 2. So I reckon that Justin Hammer, there's a really interesting story to be told about him not being part of the blip, and for him to then use the opportunity to basically occupy the space that a similar space. I mean, Stark was there as well, of course, but I think he was the kind of guy that, if he'd suddenly been in the remaining 50% of the world, he would have used it to improve his lot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That makes total sense.
I think, historically, a microcosm of what happened during the blip could have been possibly seen during the earthquake in 1903 in Cisco. I think that was 03, and the Chicago fire, where you had groups that tried their best to kind of help people altruistically, and then you had government come in and just fuck everything up and assign people through a capitalist means to then distribute goods. So during the Chicago fire, people were given all these donations, and then they set up an organization that would decide the worthiness of the people that would get those donations.
Oh my God.
And one of the criteria was, can you not hear me?
No, we can hear you.
Totally hear you, man.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Totally hear you.
Sorry. Yeah. One of the I thought you were like, oh my God, he won't shut the fuck up. No. One of the criteria was just
a great point. You're making interesting information, and now you've totally fucked it up.
You've got to have more confidence in your point, Casey. You keep on interrupting yourself while you're coming out with solid gold comments. Do you know what I mean? We're just all listening to what you're saying.
Exactly.
The point was they would make sure that the people that got the funds, would be the already well-moneyed people that lost their mansions or whatever. Whereas the people on the other side of the tracks got nothing because they were not property owners. That was my point.
So your point is greed sucks. Yeah.
Yes. But from a historical basis,
keep it like tink.
Yeah.
So I want to fall back to something we were talking about earlier. Then Kenric's like, wait, hold on for a second. And we went off a whole huge tangent. I want to go back to Isaiah real quick.
It's what I do.
Right. I want to go back to Isaiah Bradley and his conversation with Falcon Winter Soldier.
I was about to pull up my Bible. Good. Thank you. Glad you.
wrong one. No, but one, again, if you haven't read Truth, Red, White, and Black, I highly suggest reading it because that book is
great book. Great recommendation, Johnny. Yeah, it's really good.
If you don't know the story of it, basically, they basically told you the story somewhat in Isaiah talking, but basically he is a black group of people were experimented on with the super soldier serum after Steve Rogers. Isaiah got the power from it, but he was treated like shit. They didn't touch it in the show, but in the comic, they basically use him as a lab rat in a lot of ways and try to basically force him to breed, and it's really kind of sad. But where I'm going with this is, did you guys catch who answered the door at Isaiah's house?
I did not, and I'm looking forward to knowing what the answer
Eli
to this
Bradley.
is.
It's Patriot from the New Avengers.
Oh, brilliant, mate! Fantastic. Yes, of course it is.
Wow.
Yeah. So now we've seen 3 New Avengers.
Yes. Yeah. Of course it is.
Yep.
Interesting.
So so they're definitely building towards something for New Avengers, because we got Speed, Wiccan, and Patriot now have shown up in these shows as characters. They've got to be building something towards New Avengers now, because that's half the team.
Oh man, you could see like Faggy with his marionettes just right. Putting out another masterpiece.
And the best thing is the only way you catch that Eli is one of two things: either you really know Eli and Isaiah's relationship back and forth, or 2, you watch the credits, because in the credits he's credited as Eli Bradley. And that's what I caught, isn't it?
Oh, that's interesting. That's
fucking brilliant. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good little drop there.
So he's the grandson. Thank you for E. Brunson clearing that, saying that in the chat. So that means he's got some power set coming from his grandfather through everything. Where's his dad? Or is his mom? Did Isaiah have a daughter or a son?
So I don't know how they're touching this. I don't know much about Patriot's actual comic origins, so I can't answer that question.
Kenric's asking, like serious level of like family tree questions.
I don't know.
Awesome. And anyway, how did they meet? Like, where was the first date?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? When did they go on honeymoon? Why don't you fucking know these answers, Johnny?
What was their first date like? But maybe he would know. I mean, because I wouldn't have pulled that out from the show, like Johnny just said. You know what I mean? And now that they've introduced 3 new Avengers. I mean, I have no clue. That was cool. So I'm like serious. Did Isaiah have a daughter or a son? And then go from there. Skips generations. It's interesting. Super interesting.
And it makes me hope that they are working towards a New Avengers show or movie, because it'd be a lot of fun to break that in there. And who's, we got Miss Marvel coming. We got other characters coming. I do wonder if they're going to put in Hulkling into the MCU. Because there's a whole, like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's a whole thing between Hulkling and Wiccan as being a couple and all this stuff, and it's really, really well done. And Hulkling is an interesting character. I don't know much about him, but he looks cool. So I'm really curious to have him to have it explored more. So I was happy to see they dropped more. We got 2 of them in WandaVision. We got 1 of them here, so it's nice.
Hey, I got a question for everybody. Do you think having John Walker on there and some of the moves that he did make were pretty superhuman, like throwing the discs or the shield at the right moment, capture the guy as he was getting about ready to hit the concrete, being pushed off the semi truck? Do they run the risk of too much of that and having him be too super without having any powers?
Well, they kind of set it up so that he is an absurdly high-level physical specimen without having superpowers. Right, that was a big part of the setup about him with his physical abilities. Like, he's a perfect physical specimen. He's just not superhuman. personally, I think one thing they massively over-egg when it comes to other people using the shield is, I think the only way you can use the shield the way Steve Rogers uses it is if you're superhuman, like Steve was.
Yeah.
So when you see Bucky use the shield, that makes sense because he's a super soldier as well. When you see John Walker use it, or indeed in some of the trailers we've seen, when you've seen Sam practicing with it, I don't think you can actually use the shield like that unless you've got superhuman strength and just superhuman and hand-to-eye coordination as well. That's the only thing that makes sense of the way you could use the shield that way, because I don't think a regular human being could ever do that.
They're the greatest Frisbee players in the world.
Yeah. Even the greatest Frisbee players in the world, I don't think would be able to do it. You know what I mean? Because it's a very heavy Frisbee. You know what I'm saying? And so
I didn't like
I think
honestly.
I thought it was good the way it kind of made it. It didn't portray him by and large as somebody who was like superhuman in his ability, hence the fact that he had to crawl back up onto the top and whatnot. But nonetheless, the use of the shield is a bit rich. I would say it smacks of the original Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck, when he's doing stuff that's physically beyond what just a regular human being should be able to do. Okay, I know the Ben Affleck Daredevil, his like powers are all tied in with the sonar and everything, but he's not got super strength. So how on earth he manages to jump 40 feet off like a Hell's Kitchen, block and land on a fire guard without breaking both of his legs?
Telescope his knees.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, no one can do that. At the minute somebody's superhuman, it's fair enough, And by the way, they've been guilty of doing this in a shit ton of like superhero movies. What like Batman does in some of the Tim Burton movies and some of the pre-Christian Bale movies are pretty hard to accept in terms of, well, why haven't you just broken your pelvis there and then? Because that is in reality what would happen, right?
Yeah.
So I think the only thing is, it's our old friend artistic license. You've got to take some of this with a pinch of salt, and you really want to take some of it with a gallon of salt, because we're talking about grown human beings who like dress up in superhero costumes that are in reality, if you wear those in real life, they're not very functional, and you can't fucking hear anything, and your field of vision isn't any good. So I think the level on which you have to let it go is, well, we are watching grown people watching grown-up entertainment about people who dress up in superhero costumes and call themselves by superhero names,
and then we're talking about it.
That's all fucking ridiculous, And you've got to bear that in mind. I think the fact that we're talking about contemporary myths and that like the superhero genre is a wild extrapolation of what could ever happen in real life. You have to keep that close to yourself at all times.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
You got to suspend that.
Sometimes you just got to let it go.
Yeah, I think throwing the
was Walker not
the show Walker throwing it like they've got to have some kind of like, I feel like he's gonna have, right.
That's what I was trying to get out. Was he not part of like the same program like later on down the line?
They might have kept it a secret. Yeah, for sure.
And maybe that might be a reveal later on.
Yeah, that makes sense because to be able to throw the shield, they have him throwing the shield at the targets and catching it that way. I mean, that's not a normal human thing. Like that's not something that you'd expect a soldier to be able to actually do.
But then again, right? If that's the case, then he's had the shittest fucking dose of the super serum ever, because he should be able to really climb up on top of that fucking truck. You know what I mean? Just jump up on it. But he takes 30 seconds climbing up. You know what I mean?
Also, like the frisbee golf and the shield, it just means that he's a big fucking nerd to begin with, because that is the nerdiest of sports. Like, are you kidding me?
My nephew plays frisbee golf.
You love frisbee golf, Casey.
That's right. To tell you the truth, gents, I've never even heard of frisbee golf before. I don't know what it is.
I've seen it. I don't understand it at all.
Frisbee golf is you go to a field.
It's like the whitest of
and disappoint your dad for like 2 hours.
Okay. It's you have different levels of frisbees. They're different sizes. Okay. And then you have little towers set up in different formations or in different areas of a field or of an area. And then you try to hit the tower with your different level of frisbee. Each frisbee level represents a golf club. and then each place that you're going to has different distances to hit that little metal tower. So that'll be your par 4, your par 3, your par 5, and you literally are golfing, but you're throwing a frisbee that is a different weight set, so it gets different distances, and then you get as close to that tower, or you hit the tower, and that gives you your hole in one, or your whatever it is. And they just do it with frisbees. It's actually wildly popular. There's tons of parks that have set up frisbee golf like freaking areas, and you'll go there and you'll have tons. It's actually, it is nerdy. Casey's right, but at the same time, it's a great thing to take your family to and have a fun time just throwing the frisbee. It's just a different way to do.
So Kenric, that is a very eloquent and beautifully expressed explanation of something that, in the time it's taken you to say it, has completely exhausted my interest in the whole thing. Do you know what I mean? It just sounds like the worst fucking thing on the face of the earth. It sounds lame with a capital L. Do you know what I mean? If that you're telling me families in America are doing that to entertain themselves, I think that's pitiful. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely pitiful. Fucking unbelievable. Can't they just go fucking rambling in the woods or something, or play actual golf, or play a real sport? Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a long
Thank you for
love it, but I've actually never played it.
Yeah.
I have.
I mean, mate, I totally respect your description. I'm glad you gave it to me, because now I know when I'm next in America, somebody says to me, "Hey, do you fancy playing frisbee golf?" I can go, "No, I'd rather stick this fork in my ear. Thanks very much. Let's go and do some actual that involves being alive. Something actually interesting." That's amazing.
It's kind of great. Mate. And it's huge, dude. People went nuts. About 20 years ago is when it was the height of its popularity.
It's huge. It's huge in Northwest. It's huge with college kids. It's huge with people who like to just get drunk and throw things.
Yeah.
So
I know that makes more sense to me. You've said the magic word. I could see how that would completely bring my interest in it alive. If it's something, I mean, I'm saying this. Clearly, I'm only joking, because I've actually been to Bally's Casino in Vegas and played Twilight Zone golf. In the dark, with glow-in-the-dark golf balls on a glow-in-the-dark crazy golf course.
Yeah,
and I went there with the Star Trek crew, because it's all part of the same company, right? CBS, and the way that was played is with massive pitchers of beer and margaritas. So by the time you've done 2 or 3 holes, you're absolutely shit-faced. I have to say, it was a very, very good time. So I'm sure I'd feel the same way about frisbee golf if somebody offered me a ton of drinks before I did it. Then again, I'd do most things if it came with free drinks.
Oh, yeah. Dude, talking about drinking and throwing stuff, because it just reminds me of this. Me and my nephew got super, super drunk about a year ago. And my nephew,
I'm hoping, I know this isn't the truth, but I'm hoping that somebody watching this is automatically assuming that your nephew is like 6 years old and you're like the worst uncle ever. You're like the world's most evil uncle. Yeah, me and my nephew, we got really shit-faced. How old is he? Oh, he's 4. He's 4 years old. He just can't take the drinks. You know what I mean? But I know your nephew is like a grown man, isn't he?
Yeah. He's like 26 now. Or
I mean, he's a grown man in so much that he's over age of 21.
Exactly. So he comes out. I bought this big bottle of gin, and gin seems to be the drink that I can just drink, right? I feel like everybody has that alcohol where they just drink it and they'll get totally smashed, but it doesn't affect them the same way as all the other ones.
That's my wife's jam.
Yeah, and so we were drinking, and I bought a half gallon, and Cameron and I start taking shots, and then just out of nowhere. It was it started off as, "Hey, you want to take a shot with me, Uncle Kenric?" Yeah, let's take 1 shot. And then, 20 shots later, we're completely to the wind. Tafine is with us, to the wind. I have my kid with us, right? And she's not drinking, just to make it fucking very clear, Sumner, she is not drinking. But it's like 3:00 in the morning. We're completely smashed. I pull out a bag of potatoes that is just completely old and squishy and disgusting. So we go down into this little gully and we're taking these bag of potatoes, and I'm like, let's hit the fence. And we start throwing them, and all the potatoes starts getting chucked into the neighbor's yard. Just a full-on bag of potatoes. The next morning, Fiend's outside. We're all hungover, and she can. Here's the neighbors walking their yard. They're like, "There's a potato. There's another potato. Where are these potatoes coming from?"
And then you just have to play like, no, the potato man.
You got potatoes over here.
Make up some wild story.
Oh my god!
You could turn yourself into an MCU villain with this story. You could be the potato smasher, right?
Down.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's a good way to move on to speculation. Because there may well be.
Did you see what I was doing there? That was my segue back into the MCU.
So looking forward, what do y'all think is going to happen?
So if you would ask me this question, I think last week about what I think was going to happen, I would have said, I think that John Walker, U.S. agent, is not going to live through this show.
Yeah.
I would have suspected that his character is going to die at some point in the show. But after seeing this episode, I don't necessarily think I believe that anymore. I think his character is going to persist on past this show, but I think I think they're going to fall him back to being the U.S. agent as his moniker. And he's going to change drastically. He's going to be a much darker character, and the Cap mantle is going to be. I don't think we're going to see Captain America as Falcon until the last episode. I think it's going to be.
I think that's absolutely right. I think it can't come any earlier than that. I wouldn't have thought.
Right.
John Walker look at the camera and say, "Hail Hydra."
Oh yeah, that would be.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I think you might be onto something with that. It'd be very interesting if John Walker is more like, hey man, you know what? One thing I'm not is Captain America, because Steve Rogers, I'm too dark for this stuff. You know, I'm a career soldier, assassin type. You know, I'm like making Bucky Barnes like Captain America. You can't do it. And it'd be interesting if he kind of sees the truth of, actually, you know what? Steve wanted you to be Captain America for a reason. Hey, have this shield, mate. Even if it's superior, you know, I think it could be that going on.
You think he's willing to do that? You think he'll get to a point where he gives it up himself? Because I kind of feel like it could be go the other way, where he's not
or rested from it. Yeah.
I think it'd be a better turn to do it that way. I think it'd be a better turn for the show because they've already got him teaming up reluctantly, right? And working together, the four of them, back and forth. I think Summer's on the right track there. It's going to end up to where John Walker's going to realize, hey, this ain't me. I don't represent this. Like I'm not representing this mantle correctly, because they've already shown that he has a respect for Captain America. He has a respect for Steve Rogers.
Yeah, right.
But he's not Steve Rogers, and he's not had the same morals or mentality. Whereas Sam, who's also not Steve Rogers, was handpicked by Steve Rogers and is more in line with what Steve was pushing for. So right. I think it would be a good character turn if he's like, hey, here, this is not me, but still keeps going off as he changes over to U.S. agent, and that we can still have him there and still not. He wouldn't be a bad guy. There wouldn't be a huge blowout fight. Yeah. Kind of. And it would kind of subvert expectations, because people expect them to fight, and one of them, and bad things to happen between them. So
I think you're on something, which is why they might have spent all that time setting him up as a guy with a regular home life, and things that he cares about, and a set of principles, and a best friend. I mean, he's got all of that. They've been at pains to make him very well rounded. Now you have to ask, okay, they're making him well rounded. Why is that? They're not just going to throw that away. It's got to have some material importance in the story that they are telling, because they tell these stories very economically. And one thing I know about the way all these MCU cats think is they don't put this stuff in unless it's going to serve a purpose later down the line. It always serves a purpose. So they're portrayed in that way for a reason. Whereas in the comics, of course, we're all influenced by the fact that if you're a comics fan, you know that, like, John Walker starts out as somebody whose brain hasn't been able to take the super soldier serum, and he's kind of batshit crazy and a zealot from the get-go. Well, this version of John Walker absolutely is not that. And by the way, it's interesting, because I just found it as funny as everybody else did. Casey's description of that dude with the with his mask on, right? As being Christ, what the hell is his name? Kurt Russell, Wyatt Russell, with the mask on, is looking like Popeye. But of course, with the mask off, he's a lot better looking. Yeah, but the thing is, he's a charismatic dude as well. To me, he's definitely got some charisma to him. And so he's likable, and you just don't watch him going, you're a fuck. Everybody for that week between seeing him in the mask and this episode starting was like, douchebag new Captain America, what you want to jerk off. But actually, as soon as you spend the time with him in an episode, you don't dislike him at all. You know, he comes across like a good guy. So I think they're doing that for a reason. As you say, I think it's much more interesting than him just being a lunatic version of Captain America. You know what I mean?
Here's a question for the group. What'd they get wrong?
I don't think they got anything wrong.
I honestly don't think they got anything wrong. I got to say, I think it's pretty spot on.
I agree.
I mean, we're seeing character building and beats and good progress in the story, and you kind of realize the motivations. This episode, we actually saw a bunch of motivation for the other characters. So that was cool.
I can't wait for next week when Zemo gets on stage because Daniel Bruhl is such a great actor. He's brilliant. And the great thing about Daniel Bruhl is, and right from the first thing I became aware of him in, which is Inglourious Bastards, he is brilliant at playing light and shadow within one character. So, you know, you spend most of Inglourious Bastards really liking his character, you know, the German sniper, super assassin. And then there's this turn where you realize, oh, fuck, he's just a Nazi like the rest of them, you know. And then you realize he's actually a monster. Yeah. But you've spent so much of the movie liking him that really hits home when they make that bait and switch. And, you know, he's a great actor. He's got these naturally boyish looks, but he plays complexity really well. So I'm just really looking forward to having him back on stage and being Zemo.
Oh yeah. Oh, and the fact that they've shown that we're going to get him he's going to have the purple mask on.
Good. Yeah.
I'm so glad they're doing that because it's not like the coolest costume in the world. Just the fact that they're playing homage to the comics and doing it makes me happy.
Well, just leading into that whole kitschness of it is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of funny. Daniel Bruhl, that guy is amazing. If you haven't watched The Alienist, the TV show, I highly recommend it.
Oh, I haven't seen that, so I'll definitely take the recommendation.
Yeah, he's good in it. He's really good in it.
Kenric, how about you, mate? What do you think?
You know, I actually enjoyed the second episode. I loved the first episode for the PTSD of it. You know, seeing Bucky in a different way. Like you knew that this kind of stuff was going on, but watching him actually work through everything and trying to make amends I thought was really cool. On the second episode, I don't like the John Walker character. He bugs me, you know. He bugs me when he walked into that police station and he was just a fucking asshole. You know,
very cocky,
and I didn't like it. And
authorize this.
Yeah.
And maybe it's me playing into what they're trying to get out of me watching.
100%.
Yeah, because
you're reacting the way you're supposed to react, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
1000%.
That's not Captain America to me at all.
No, of course. Yeah.
You know, and it drives me nuts. And I was hoping for his death on the semi. Like when he got up the semi, I wanted that girl just to like push him off and then boom. And then I just wanted the whole thing, everybody like, you know what I mean? And then the world just freak out because Captain America died again, you know? And it's just, yeah. But at the same time, I kind of have to agree. I don't know if they've done anything wrong yet. I mean, there's going to be little things that'll get to you, you know? But so far, I'm really excited for part 3 because man, these have been a treat. These are so different.
They really have.
The movies coming out, you know, the movies are coming out. You're like, oh, cool. The movie's coming out. And a single movie, you can either love it, hate it, or be indifferent to it. Right. But the TV shows give you so much more in these little clips that
I love these shows, man.
Me too.
So much better.
Yeah.
So far, and the thing is that there really are must-watch appointment television because each layer that gets peeled back.
Yeah.
Every episode, they're just fucking full of Easter eggs and you know, stuff that if you're a lifelong Marvel fan, it's just amazing stuff to watch.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just going to come off topic for a second and say, tell you what we've got to cover. We've got to cover on a spoiler country because if you've not watched it yet, it's fucking brilliant. And that's the new Invincible show.
Oh, it is amazing.
It is superb. It's absolutely superb.
Yeah.
And Invincible is I think is actually truly Robert Kirkman's great achievement. I am not a massive Walking Dead fan because I find the whole thing very samey. But Robert, I mean, it's brilliantly done, but it's just the same shit all the time. I don't care about zombies, but Invincible is an amazing tapestry of a book. So that the whole 26, graphic novels of it just because what's great about it is it starts, you think you're going to get one thing, and then it takes this massive right turn, and it's really something else entirely. And then they take what that is and run with it and double down and double. When I say they, it's like, Kirkman and Ryan Otley and those guys. But the cartoon show is amazing. It's really, really good. We've got to cover that off.
Oh, yeah,
so we've all got to get on the same page, and we should do that as well.
Yep.
One thing I liked about the show, and I saw a lot of Kirkman's writing in a scene in particular, was when the dad is kind of teaching his son how to fly, and he's like, it's like peeing your pants on purpose. I was like, that's so a Robert Kirkman line.
It really is. And actually, Casey, you've touched upon one of the best things in the episode, which we should literally give over another spoiler country to. And that's the whole scene about, inertia and all that kind of stuff, which I've never seen anybody leverage. I've never seen anybody talk about that in a superhero show before, but it's a fundamental truth of any of those characters that flies, that a fundamental part of their power is they can create their own internal leverage. I've never seen that given any lip service to you before. And that's when Kirkman's a smart guy. I mean, he wrote the episode, of course, but it was really, really good. So let's loop back to the MCU, but we should get into that we should do an episode. We should do Spoiler Country all about that.
Yeah.
The roadworks departments hate all superheroes in real life. They're just like, these fucking, could you not do stop putting holes in our roads?
Well, that's what Damage Control was all about, wasn't it? The whole book.
Oh yeah.
That's keeping people employed, man. Come on.
Right. It's job creation.
Yeah, right.
Man.
Exactly.
Job creation.
I know. Actually, my uncle was a road worker, and he would have been so happy to be taking. He was just like literally a foreman. He would have been kept in constant employment by superhero battles if they truly existed in the world. He'd have been as happy as Larry filling those holes in the industry.
I love it. All right, guys. Well, man, same time next week. We'll try to do our normal.
Sounds good.
Saturday. Today was an offshoot, doing it on Sunday. We usually do it Saturday, 9 a.m. Pacific. If you guys can join us, that would be great for our next live podcast or stream, I guess it would be, of Make Mine Marvel TV, Falcon and Winter Soldier reaction, episode 3. Thanks everybody on the chat room that joined us today and had some great questions and insights. We really appreciated that. And we'll see you guys all soon.
Thanks, true believers. Make Mine Marvel TV.